doesn't really, it's not listening to gravity. It's just, it's got a mind of its own. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Wendy, and today in Taking New Steps on a Sewing Journey, we're gonna tackle cowl necklines. So elegant, so beautiful, so mysterious. How does it just fall? Last year, I got this secondhand tank top and this secondhand dress, and both of them had cowl necklines, which increased my bravery and desire to tackle this myself. There was an original plan to make my own cowl neckline bridesmaid dress for a wedding this year, but unfortunately, due to Miss Rona, that wedding is postponed. However, sewing learning is not, and to stack the learnings, I'm going to take two methods of fashion construction: pattern drafting versus draping. I'm going to try to make two dresses, one with each of these methods. I've bought these two really pretty fabrics. Check out the like super cool shimmer on this one. This is the inspo pick for the satin. This is the inspo pick for this stretch multicolor thing. And we're going to start with method one, pattern drafting our way to the cowl neckline. This is where we end up. This is where we start. For like the umpteenth time, I got this bodice pattern from a class that I took in Toronto, and it's fitted to me. However, I hear you, I see you in the comments, everyone who's saying like, I'm gonna need a lot more than this class you took because you can't take that class right now. I understand. I'm actually super excited because in an upcoming video this month, I'm gonna share some tactics on how to make one of these for yourself. Please stay tuned for it. But the methodology behind cowl pattern making is from your own bodice pattern, you need to cut a couple of slashes. One that goes from the shoulder all the way to your bust line. You need one more that goes halfway along the shoulder to halfway between the bust and the neck hole. And then you need to cut one more in between those first two lines. You slash all of those, lose the neck hole piece, and spread them out until they're perpendicular to the center fold. All of this gets redrawn, and then you add the flap that'll get folded to the inside when you're wearing it as a cowl neckline. Consolidating your slashes more towards the bust is going to get you a lower cowl neckline, and bringing the slashes closer to the neck hole is going to get you a shallower cowl neckline. This got us our first draft, and from here we can make any modifications as needed to get second, third, fourth, hopefully not any more than that, drafts. Here we go with the pattern. The fabric has been folded along the bias. The pattern edge is aligned with the fold to create one symmetrical piece. After cutting it out, I just add a line to remind myself where to fold and press the fabric, and then similarly with the back, folding along the bias, using the fold as a line of symmetry, and you've got your own back covered. Self-love. This front piece and the back piece are going to get sewn right sides together, just along one of the sides, because I'm going to leave the other side open to get in and out and try it on. Okay, so this first attempt has too much fabric in the cowl neck area. Also, the sides are a little bit loose. Like, here's where it's supposed to go according to this pattern, but you can take it and like recut the armhole. It's closer to the desired outcome. Then, oh, the sunlight just changed a lot, sorry. To reduce the drape depth problem, we brought the armhole closer to the center edge while trying to maintain its size, since my armhole is not the thing that needs to change, it's the amount of fabric in between my two armholes. Connecting that back to the rest of the pattern, I transferred those adjustments to the fabric and then sewed one side together front to back to give it a try, pinning this back to my dress straps to create this like fit hybrid thing. I was way happier with this neckline placement, so we felt ready to move on to the real, more expensive, not at all intimidating fabric. First, we drew the pattern with the rounded edge, armhole, but then realized if we want to have a nice facing to it, we should really just draw the whole pattern mirrored along that fold line. So instead, here is the waist, we have the armhole, and then here's the mirror point. Armhole coming back down the side, here again is the waist. To get the length of the dress, you can measure, or you can take some inspiration from those crime scenes chalk drawings and just lie down. I am still a scaredy cat, so I always give an extra 5 or so centimeters in case we accidentally go too short. You can always trim it later. Cut this all out and then find some other efficient way to fold the fabric along the bias again so that you can cut out the back. This chalk drawing right here is copied from this pattern. Sorry, that's that excess we took off. And then I took the front that I already cut, lined them up at the waist, and lay it all out because my goal is to match the front and the back on the skirt. That way, if we need to adjust the width, they're being adjusted equally instead of creating some sort of like, I don't know, unbalanced monster of a dress. Okay, it's time to bring in method 2. I feel like this is the more visually familiar, like sewing reality TV look. When you see them all like busy working on their dress form, they're probably draping. The downside of pattern drafting is it's all happening on a flat surface, when in reality clothes is worn on 3D beings that are subject to gravity. So draping kind of lets you accommodate for that reality. Hopefully that was a helpful description. Let's give it a try. Just like in the pattern drafting, the fabric gets folded along the bias, but this time it's pressed ahead of cutting out the shape. You should have enough fabric folded over to cover your entire top front, but I'm demonstrating on this smaller piece of fabric so that it's easier to see the steps and things you should be troubleshooting for. Once pressed, you pin the fabric to the dress form and you just let that creased edge fall freely. Let her speak to you. Do you want a high neckline? Do you want to drop it low? Do you want shoulder width drama? Do you want a nice narrow fold? This is where the weight, thickness, stretch of your material will uniquely play a part in your decision. Draping just lets you discover that in a way that pattern drafting cannot. The only thing to look out for is to make sure the folds are falling symmetrically right down the middle. If you find it naturally rests to either side or that the folds start to veer off center, you can raise or lower the pins on one of the sides to kind of even it out. Or it is possible you didn't press it exactly on the bias to begin with, in which case you will probably need to repress. This little sample piece, however, seems to have it just right. I'm really sorry about this, but I'm pretty sure I did not turn on the microphone. Well, let me try to recap what was going on here. This is what Julia has been busily pinning in the background while I was trying to work on the champagne dress. All of the draping is happening in the front, just like I demonstrated on that smaller piece of fabric. She even added these pleats so that we would get even more dramatic folds. Because I was aiming for a relatively slim fit, the fabric was then pulled back so that it would fully contour along the two sides. If we wanted the cowl drape in the back, we could have applied this exact same principle, but for now, all that's needed is to cut it free from the mannequin so that we have a shape that we can begin to sew with. A stitch needs to be done to hold this fold in place, as well as this pleat over here on the armholes, and then we can cut out a back piece and we sew together the sides, just like on the champagne dress. Here is the pleat stitch, and then the back's now separate. There's no pleating here, just on the front. From here on out, the rest of the dress assembly was more or less the same for both dresses, so we're also going to sew one side of the knit dress together. Julia picked up this invisible zipper for the champagne dress. Just needs to go from armpit to at least past your hip so that it can take in all your curves. I don't have much to speak of, but if you do, all your curves. These are the two straight edges that I need to attach the zipper to. This side gets sewn here, and this side gets sewn here. And there's a step before that where you should switch to a zipper foot. It's not very invisible right now. I added this extra straight stitch that was even closer to the zipper teeth to help make the zipper truly invisible. I don't know how people are getting invisible zippers done in one shot, but I always end up doing this like extra little stitch. And in the same way, we had a nice matching zipper for the knit dress, and we pinned that to the free side and sewed it in. It's time for straps. I cut this 3 centimeter wide strip. We're just going to be folding this in half, and I'm going to do a straight stitch right down the middle. This raw edge needs to be trimmed back, so here is how it looked before, and here it is trimmed. Julia brought over a tube turner. The end is pinched. Oh no. Come on. Let's be friends. I'm trying another technique. Did you get it? When all your typical tube turning tactics have failed you, keep in mind the good old straw. First step, sew the whole tube right sides together. Second step, get a cord that is long enough to go through your entire tube as well as a straw. Number 3, cut a small slit into the tube at one end, tie the cord through that hole so that it's super secure. Then using some kind of weight or bobby pin, drop the cord to the inside of the tube so that it pops out the bottom. Next, put the cord through the straw, get the straw up inside the tube, and work it all the way until it's at the other end. This is obviously way easier with a straight straw. Once your straw is almost at the end, pull on the cord to start to drag the tube into the straw. Keep pulling on the cord as the straw forms this smooth rim for the tube to flip around so that it doesn't get all caught. And finally, success! I pray that it will be yours. Thankfully it was mine, or else honestly this video would not exist. Okay, now for facing. Ugh. Here's the extra little back pattern that I cut. I'm gonna sew this to this flap here. After that, all of this is tucked in with the dress so I can sew everything right sides together along the entire top opening of the dress. Here's me trying to be a good girl and understitch my facing, which is pushing the raw fabric towards the inside layer and adding a straight stitch so that none of the facing ever flips out into the real world. I inserted the straps by swimming up from the inside and sewing them into these folded corners. Unfortunately, the reality is I'm still really new to facing. I did not attach it to the zipper, so now I'm gatekeeping myself from my own dress. To resolve this, I undid the side seam of the facing that was supposed to be with my zipper. I did a lot of mental gymnastics. I feel like I can't even explain what the heck just happened here. And I finally got the facing attached to the zipper, which is attached to the outside of my dress, which can now zip up smoothly. I'll try to put some good facing resources in the description for you so both of us can learn a lot more about this. But anyways, at this point I'm reaching like mental, physical, emotional exhaustion. It's the end of the day. So I just let my tank top help me decide how long and where the straps needed to be to attach on my back. To hide all those raw edges, I just fold the edge in once, do a straight stitch, then fold it in one more time, do a second straight stitch. I love this method because it's so clean and so easy. And here are the finished looks for my 2 cowl neck dresses.
She bought me quick and mixing up the different products, kiss your problems under my liquor bottle and Genelec to make a generalize the women that I'm sitting next to. Whispered, oh my god, I think I seen them on my type, but I like, if y'all like what I like, then my night is finite, but we get it started up. Ooh, you got the curve thing, let your curl hang, girlfriend look like everything I'm ever regret tomorrow, but you just wanna hang with the A-list. Cussing women out and kiss my mother with the same list. You can keep your name, who you came with, keep it real, it's not my business, but we in it for the same. Girl, I know you using me to make your man mad though. I think it's cool as is he coming to scoop you up, it's Gucci, I'm gonna douche you, every lie pop off, but just in case I fall asleep, I let the top lock off and you can let me know when you get back.
Whew, there's still some things that I want to finesse on both of these dresses if I were to like really be nitpicky. The champagne one I think could be slimmed a bit at the top opening, and then this one I ended up adding these darts to try to reduce the excess fabric here at this front armpit. Also, I'm kind of digging the angular shape it creates, so that's a bonus. Now you could migrate the leg slit, you could drop the back, you could even put a cowl in the back. There will be plenty more photos on my Instagram @WITHWENDY, and if you post photos of your lovely cowl necklines, don't forget to use hashtag #MadeWithWendy so I can find it and shower love on it. If you've watched at least 2 of my videos at this point, stop lurking, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, you know how YouTube works. See you all in the next video. Bye bye!